Welcome to Phoenix Rising. I have a very special guest today, a woman who has become a dear friend. Her name is Linda Gomez. Welcome, my dear friend, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here today. And I will read off Linda's mini list here because she is so much more than this. She is a Narcan trainer. We will definitely be talking about Narcan. Family addiction specialist. She does empowerment education. And she is a wealth of heart and information for everyone. So for this show, I hope you get a pad and a pen and take some notes, and she'll give you her contact information. And if you lose it for any reason, contact me and I will get you in touch with Linda. So welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you. This is wonderful. We have a lot to talk about today.
We do.
The title of the show is The Humanity of Addiction. And that's what you have on your beautiful business cards here. How did you come up with that title?
Well, I started Narcan Training about 5 years ago, only because, and I never really knew there was anything like Narcan. Like, let's say 8-9 years ago, addiction hit my home, and I never knew there was anything like Narcan. So when I got involved with another organization that we'll talk a little about, found out about Narcan and became a trainer. And I started training at universities and different businesses and private groups. And I realized that I was training all these people about this life-saving thing that was literally saving people's lives and needed to be expanded. And I was doing these trainings and I wasn't talking about love. And I wasn't talking about compassion for these people who we love, our family members, our children.
Yeah.
I didn't mention the word love one time. So that was like a big realization for me, and I kind of I pulled a Jerry Maguire. I kind of, like in 3 in the morning, I like rewrote my head and rewrote my words. And that was the humanity of addiction.
What is Narcan? For those that don't know and have possibly never heard of it.
Yeah. So Narcan is, right now with the new Narcan, this is the new Narcan.
You hold it up to that camera.
Yeah. I'm actually going to take it out because it is new, and I'll show you and talk about how new it is. It's in a new format, which is kind of like Flonase, actually. It's very easy to administer. Some people, when I say Narcan training, are thinking about like years ago, the Narcan shot, or even the Narcan pieces where you had to put the nose piece on it.
And that's for someone that is overdosing.
Overdosing.
Does it matter what they're overdosing from?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit, touch on that. But yes, it's a opiate. This takes the opiates off the receptors.
Okay.
And again, the old version of Narcan, if anybody's trained on that, is a very different, it's 2 milligrams. This new Narcan is 4 milligrams.
Okay.
And it's like Flonase, it's just...
Sure is.
It's just, and it'll never hurt anybody. If you're not sure if anybody's overdosing, always try it. And even if it is for opiates, which it is, you're never gonna know what's inside someone's body.
Yeah.
If you see somebody that you believe is overdosing and you have ability for Narcan, always use it.
Right. So it's just one push in one nostril?
It's one push in one nostril, and then again, this kit, if you get it from me or Cass J, who we'll talk about, it comes with 2.
Okay.
But I always ask people in my audience if they love anyone battling. And if you love someone who's using or any kind of substance, take 2 kits.
Right.
You know,
because
it's
you
great
have no idea.
It's great to have it if you need it.
What's entailed in the training? I'm sure you don't have to have someone in the family or that you know that is impacted, but most of us that would go for the training our lives have been touched by drugs. If not personally, someone in the family, a friend, a neighbor, whatever it is to you.
These days, it's 1 out of 3 families are affected by some kind of addiction. And yes, a lot of people do come out for public Narcan trainings and things, and it's wonderful just to be educated on this.
Right.
Because everyone does know someone battling these days.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows someone who's battling. And the drugs and literally fentanyl has taken over our streets. And that's why this is 4 milligrams now,
Okay.
because of fentanyl.
Because it really is an epidemic. There's an epidemic in mental health. There's an epidemic in street drugs, pharmaceuticals that are prescribed.
Yep.
It seems that there is, well, going right into the mental health issue, there is so much depression and sadness and detachment going on, estrangement from family and loved ones that is the sister/relative to the addiction process.
Yeah.
And there are people that are severely depressed that do not go to alcohol, drugs, but the addiction, it's your drug of choice. What is it? Is it shopping? Is it your cell phone?
There are so many addictions these days. And what I find is it's not just one thing. It's not just, okay, so you're addicted to benzos. It's you're addicted to something else or something else. And then what it becomes actually is a kind of like a catch-22, like what came first? Your problem that you're self-medicating for, or that you were using and your brain structure changed.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking a lot about the brain here.
Yeah.
Because if you're using, there's brain changes, even with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Think back. Like I had plenty of alcohol all my life in my house. You know, a stocked bar in the basement, a stocked bar upstairs.
That's how I grew up.
Stocked bar. Yeah,
Yeah.
for the legal drug, which is alcohol.
Yes. My parents really never drank. They would have their Bagels and Lox group get together once a month, whether it was at my parents' house or their friend's house. And I really don't remember any of these people getting drunk. But when I look back, because these were like adopted aunts and uncles of friends. But when you look back, you could say, well, look at that behavior. You remember like Uncle Benny was always ridiculing his wife, and there was that, and that's mental illness, that form of abuse.
Yeah.
And when someone is abusive to someone else, I think I had told you that a few of the people in the field and I are going to be putting together, it's in the works, a seminar. We're going to be doing it on the North Fork for people that live in abusive or have lived in abusive situations. So the first group that we're putting together is women that have been abused, whether it's physical, emotional, financial. There are so many different forms of abuse, all of them totally unacceptable.
There are.
And then there are men that are abused. And this came out into the forefront when my son, my oldest son, and many of you that know me or are friends of mine on Facebook know that in October, my oldest son left a suicide note and disappeared for 4 days.
Oh my God.
So an organization that you know very well, parents that have lost children, I gained so much strength from their words of wisdom that it was absolutely amazing. My son, through a whole long chain of events, ended up 4 days later admitting himself into a hospital. And there was an APB out looking for him. And I mean, there was such a disconnect even between law enforcement and the medical field, because this was October 12th, so this was Columbus Day weekend. And my son David called me to say, Ma, sit down. He was the one nominated to make this phone call. My ex-husband couldn't or wouldn't do it. And my son's girlfriend, she didn't. You know, she is who she is. And that's the narcissist that I spoke to you about. It's a very dangerous individual. And so with my son missing for all those days, really it takes an amazing amount of people to hold you up.
Oh yeah.
An amazing amount.
Oh yeah.
So someone
That's a lot
somehow,
of grief right there.
Yeah, there was an APB, and I did call the police, the policeman that went to my son's house, and he wasn't living with this young lady at the time. And I said to him, aside from the APB, what are you doing? Did you go to the bank? Did you see where he put his credit card? Did he book into a hotel? You know, anything like that. And this police officer said to me, I can't do anything about that. It's a holiday weekend. We'll get on it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
At which point, I think I called him every name in the book and said, you have to be kidding me.
Yeah.
This is a Saturday. My son left a suicide note, and you cannot and will not do anything until Tuesday because it's Columbus Day weekend.
Yeah. We find that all the time, actually, because if a person needs help, you know, the thing is, when somebody requests help, your window's small. You have a tiny little window, and they said yes. So you need to get going and call your resources and make stuff happen, right? Inevitably, it's on a Friday, but places, you know, rehabs and detoxes are moving towards now doing weekend intakes, because years ago, if it was the weekend,
too bad.
We don't do intakes. You know, but now, like I would say 90% of that's one of the positive changes that I've seen across the board. Weekend intakes. You have to.
You really do. And
of course.
He put himself in one hospital, which was an absolute blessing. And they moved him to another hospital that specializes. And when I read the reviews of this second hospital, it was very upsetting, because the staff even wrote reviews that it was not a good place, that people were being discharged too soon. So all I can do right now, because he is an adult, he is 51 years old, is just turn it over and pray that he is getting help.
Yes.
But here we go back into the mental illness.
Yeah.
I do not believe there are pharmaceutical or street drugs involved. There's deep-seated depression. There is alcohol involved from back in the day. And he went back to the narcissistic relationship.
Yeah.
Feeling that he is responsible for everything. So you talked about the catch-22 before.
Right.
So there's that catch-22. The person who has depression gets out of the situation, events happen, and they end up having to go right back into the situation because the hospital didn't keep them long enough, and also because family so many times has no education on how do you deal with someone with any form of mental illness and or drug abuse.
Well, that's huge.
The public is so ignorant, and I don't say ignorant as an insult. Because
it's not spoken about as much as it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so you asked me about, you know,
and
my
there's
beginning.
shame and there's anger.
Yeah.
And,
you asked me about the beginning of why I started this. I started this because this was part of my road to figure out how we really talk about mental health.
Yeah.
You know, because addiction and mental health run side by side as well. And that's huge for us out here now, mental health.
Yeah.
We need to upgrade our conversations about it. And we need to take it like out of the shadows and like discuss it. It's real. We all carry something.
Oh, every person, every family. People had said to me in October, because I stayed out of work for almost 2 weeks, because I was shaken to the core. This is his third attempt of suicide. And my therapist, whose name is Hope, what a great name for a therapist, right?
Yeah.
She said, what's your greatest fear? I said, that he'll succeed. Because this is more of a cry for help than definitely wanting to just shut it off. This is a cry for help. Help me, I'm in so much pain.
Right.
And so many times...
Pain's the word.
Right. So many times an attempted suicide ends up being horrifically successful because that cry for help was a fail and the suicide was a horrific success.
Right.
So
I think you touched on it very well when you said the hospitals release you almost at a time when...
It's the census. Let me get a new body in the bed.
Yeah, and that's a real thing that's happening out here. Even the places that, you know, are structurally made to help people, they can only keep you for a 72-hour hold.
Yeah.
So, you know, even somebody who's been Narcan back. I worked with a family, the gentleman was Narcan back 7 times in 1 week.
Oh my God.
So, you know, you talk about the layers there. So now you have mom who's in desperate help. She needs desperate help.
Yeah.
Now, I need help now. And the son who's very sick. I mean, he's not doing that for any other reason other than he's sick, he's dope sick.
Yes.
And now when you use Narcan on someone, you throw them into detox.
Okay.
So when you shoot that, you might be lucky enough to save someone. You have 7 minutes. So you never know how long, if you encounter an overdose situation, you
Right.
never know how long they're down,
They've
but you
been
would
there.
try it. You would try it. So you're throwing them into full detox. So many times if you're alone, you do what you can to save that person. Let's say you're successful. Then you
Okay.
go and you call 911. So you say to that person, I just Narcaned you back. You need to go with the ambulance because in 2 hours, I mean, God forbid, it could reverse. You could go back
okay.
into it within 2 hours. And you're going to be sick. You're going to be sick. You're not going to feel good.
Yeah.
So sometimes if somebody does have that horrible, horrible feeling, they might just go out and want to use again.
To get rid of that feeling.
Yeah, it's a horrible feeling,
Yeah.
you know, to be dope sick.
Yeah.
So, and all of that with someone you love desperately, you know?
So you're so torn, you know, and we
Yeah.
have the shame issue.
Oh my God, so
Because
much
people
shame.
had, when Bruce attempted suicide, each of the times, and the other 2 times my mother was still alive, and I will never forget, she said, you tell no one.
Yeah.
And I was telling, I was in Al-Anon at the time, very active in
Yeah.
Al-Anon, and I would go to open
tell
AA
no one.
meetings, and I told,
No, yeah.
you know,
But that was brave of you.
yes,
that was
she had
brave.
fits over it because there was so much shame. It's because people will say, what did you do wrong as a mother?
Yes.
You know, someone else's opinion of me or my son has to really be insignificant. And I think that's something that we all need to realize. If you have a loved one, and I'm sure at least 100 people that will watch this show have someone that's been impacted by alcohol and or drug abuse
Yeah.
and or depression, mental illness of one form or another, there is no shame in it.
I learned, I have a very close connection with shame because I spent many years shamed.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what was happening to me. But what happens is, within the signs and symptoms of any addiction, if the person you love is living with you and having some kind of symptoms, those are your symptoms. The isolation, you know, that my kids felt, no one came in my house.
Right.
No one came in my house because I didn't want to answer any questions.
Gotcha.
And you know, their isolation, and it's almost like at one point you believe you can love it away.
Yes.
You believe you can love that person so much.
I have your back no matter what you do.
No matter what.
And I
That's
can't
your
tell you
kid.
how many times I've said that to this son.
And that's your
Got
kid.
your back, always.
I got your back.
No matter
And
what you do, yes.
And you do. But to a certain level of that mental health or a certain level of addiction, the only help that you sometimes can be is giving them boundaries.
Yeah.
And
That's not easy. That's that tough
No.
love thing. Years ago,
yeah.
just before his first attempt, I lived in Hampton Bays, and I had to put him out of my house
Yeah.
because his abuse was horrific.
Oh yeah.
I was in Al-Anon. His stepfather was in AA at the time, and I opened up a dresser to put laundry away, and there was a bottle. So I just closed it, and I just said to him, if you're going to use, you can't live here. So you have, I forget if I gave him a week or 2 weeks, you have to find another place to live.
Yeah.
And in that time, he attempted suicide at my mother's house.
Oh my Lord.
And I got a call from my mother, your son is overdosing, he's at the bathroom. So I drove from Hampton Bays into Queens, picked him up, went to Stony Brook, and they did the triage, and then they put him in Eli in Quanticut.
Yes, yes.
And he was there for a while, and his father came up from Florida. We did what we could. He was supposed to go from Quanticut to a recovery house.
Right.
And my mother got involved because of the shame. And she called me and she said, they're going to put him out on the street. And I said, no, he's not going on the street. He's going into a recovery house. He's a chef. He's an amazing chef. They're going to help him get his skills going. They could even help him find an amazing job
And
out
that's
here
what
on the
they
East
do.
End.
Right.
So leave it alone. And she signed him out. And
I can relate to that with mothers.
and she signed him out, and she was furious, and he didn't talk to me for a very long time. It led to an estrangement. So aside from the addiction, aside from the suicide attempt, you have another family member, an important one, a mother, a grandmother, that if you weren't feeling shame is feeding you the shame.
She didn't know about enabling.
No.
That's
No.
not something, I mean, if you had a dictionary and you looked up enabling, that would be me looking
Yes.
at you, because I was the queen of enabling because I didn't know any better.
And there was a time I didn't know better.
Didn't know.
If I didn't have years of Al-Anon and years of open AA meetings
Right.
and AA Al-Anon anniversaries, I wouldn't have had a clue.
Right? But that was your education.
Definitely.
That was your education. And, you know, a lot of times you'll hear somebody, well, like myself also, this was not something that I chose years ago to do.
Right.
I kind of fell into it because of my experience.
Right.
And the work that I do now is because of not only education, but my experience.
Right.
You know, you have to, no one can teach you that. No one can teach
it's
you what
our
you
life
know.
journey, and our two life journeys brought us together, which to me is such an absolute blessing. And you're just an amazing person.
Thank you.
You know, and I'm learning so much more from you today.
And you'll pass it
Yes,
on.
and I am going to pass
we'll
it on.
pass it on.
So we have our list here. So did you want to go to, on our list, we have CBT,
Well,
Narcan, love, shame, communication, community, recovery, detox, street drugs.
Yeah. So let's talk about cognitive behavior therapy.
Gotcha.
Only because I'm kind of like deepening my education within that,
Mm-hmm.
and take like a for instance. Okay. So there's a lovely gentleman that I met at the hospital. I actually work in Southampton Hospital through a grant from a company called Easter Seals, if anybody. It's
I
an old,
remember them.
right. So I work on a grant, and I work at Southampton Hospital, which is the joy of my life.
Okay.
And I'm blessed enough to sit with the nurses in the ER. So now that they've gotten to know me and a little bit about what I do, they trust me more. And if somebody comes in crisis, or after a Narcan save, or just not feeling well because they used and they don't want to use anymore.
Right.
And again, you know, with benzos, if you're stopping benzos, you need to be in a facility that can watch you, because that, you know, you could have a seizure.
Okay.
So the nurses are very forthcoming with me now, and they'll say, you know, Lynn, can we get her into a place? And as always, everything depends on our insurance.
Always. Sadly.
So 2 minutes on that. Sadly, yes. So the high point of our government, sadly, has no interest in the field of addiction. And, you know, you can see spurts of information, but we don't unless we are grassroots, and our grassroots organizations are doing amazing things, within that grassroots movement here on Long Island, you can see change.
Right.
Because we're
But that
demanding,
from up above, this is vacant. They really do not care.
it's
You never
not.
see anything on the news
No.
about it. Nothing.
No. And you're not gonna.
No.
Because that's not something that this administration cares for.
No.
So grassroots, let's talk about what's happening out
Okay.
here. So places that are out here that we refer to, or any place in the country, the way that they make change with any rehab program is cognitive behavior therapy. Because what you're doing, especially like you're talking about alcohol affects your brain, different parts of your brain. And the more you drink, the more brain changes you're going to see.
Okay.
Right? So when you want to recover, you're actually talking about therapy to bring back your behavior where it can be. You want to re-enter community.
Okay.
You want a job. You want to have a relationship. You know, you want your life back.
Yeah.
So it's basically learning to do the 5 things in the morning. Like you wake up, you know, sometimes you'll have your coffee, you shower, you make your bed. You do 5 things in the morning effortlessly, right? But when you're in that life, living the life, you're not. You're only wondering where you're going to get your next drink from or buy your next drug from.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like relearning to re-enter. And that therapy, for me, learning that and just using that is amazing. This is a real thing.
Yeah.
If somebody goes to detox, they can detox. But unless you're going to continue that up with care, you're going to enter the same place you were.
That's right. And back into the same relationship, because we
Yeah.
had talked before the show, and I have no problem using my son as myself and my son, as the topic here.
Yeah.
Because for me, it hit home. It hit right in the heart at home.
Yeah.
So for him, he went right back in.
Right.
There was detoxing for him, emotional detoxing.
Right.
If there was drug detoxing or alcohol detoxing, I'm not aware of it. It's very possible.
Yeah.
So there was some care in the facility, but then they put you back out.
People, places, and things.
And he had nowhere else to go because she told the landlord where he lived, he's killing himself, he's not coming back, rent his house.
Right.
And the man did. Very quickly. It was a beautiful place. And so now he is back in with the narcissist, who is a very destructive individual.
And
So
that's exactly
that
right.
cycle.
Yeah. And narcissism plays into a very different part because a narcissist doesn't play by your rules.
Oh, no.
They don't play by anything other than themselves being kind of the main event.
Whether it's poor pity me, she had, just before this suicide attempt, she had posted something on Facebook. I don't want to air Bruce's dirty laundry, but, it's so tough being with someone that's mentally ill and this and that and the other thing. And I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And then she was calling him mentally ill because he didn't want to be with her. So he
Well,
was
talk about shame. They really know how to shame you.
Right, so he was breaking away from her the third time, at least, that he was breaking away from
Right.
her. And now, because of the events, he doesn't see yet that he has, because he doesn't have the tools yet, but he has avenues to find the tools to still be an excellent father, but not be in an addictive personality, in an
Yes.
addictive
Yeah.
relationship.
And another thing that you probably see all the time is a lot of times relationships with narcissists have a lot of gaslighting. She's very good at gaslighting
in my client base, yeah, I do see it.
Yeah. Yeah, you create the problem and then you can blame someone else for the problem.
Yes.
That you created.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they do it with a straight face.
Oh yeah, it's not.
Conviction, right from the gut.
Yeah. So again, then that slides right back to mental health.
Before we go any further, would you tell people how they could get in touch with you?
Oh, sure. I'll give you my number, which is the best. So it's 516-451-1479 is my cell. You could call me, text me, whatever. You could email me. It's on the card that
And your name
gonna show.
and information of what you do comes up on the screen periodically.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm propelled by a very different aim, I think, than most people, only because when it hits your home or it hits your life,
Yes.
you go into it differently.
It's a different avenue. We're all heading in the same direction. We all want the best for everyone. But when you have a certain trauma happen in your face, in your sphere, it shifts the energy completely.
It really does.
My friend that we talked about before we went on the show that had recently passed. So I'll dedicate this show to dear Diane de Blasi.
Oh.
She truly is an angel, was an angel, will always be an angel. When I met her, it was approximately 1 year after her daughter passed from an overdose. And she was amazing because she came to me, we did Reiki, and she became a Reiki student of mine. We became very, very close friends, sisters of the heart. And at a Reiki circle, someone was sitting there, maybe 12 people in the circle, and everyone was saying something about themselves. And she said, you know, her name was Diane de Blasi. And I have 3 daughters. One of them is in heaven, an angel. And how she put it was that Kiana's crossing gave her, Diane, a new life. Because by Kiana's crossing, it awakened Diane to what had been going on in her daughter's life.
Yeah.
And it showed Diane how she was living her life, and did she want to continue living her life that way? Because she said to me that she was a very angry, obnoxious, I mean, she went through this whole list of personality that I could not link to her. I said, but that's not you. She said, but that's who I was.
Right, right. And again, I can totally relate,
Yeah.
because as I said, it kind of changed, going through that trauma, and that's really the word. And I use that word daily because
It is.
It is.
And the trauma does not go away.
No.
You know, Bruce is still here in the physical, as far as I know. 3 suicide attempts, and I did start to write him a letter that I doubt that I'll give it to him. I don't think someone in his position would interpret it correctly.
Right.
But to be the parent of someone that has tried 3 times to take their life, or the parent of someone that has taken their life, you cannot comprehend it unless you've lived it.
Again, lived experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't.
No.
You could be compassionate,
And
and you
then
could say to
also-
the person, I don't know what to say to you.
Yes.
Because
Then that's also something. I
it
don't
is.
know.
I don't know what do I say to you,
I don't know.
you know.
And that's a very viable thing to say. I don't know, but I love you.
Yes, I love you. Do you want to use me just to talk to? The friends that stayed with me for the first 2 days, they didn't leave my side. They made me take a shower. They tried to make me eat. They did everything they could. They were trying to make me laugh, which they did, which they were just absolutely amazing. Diane Reeve and Susan Semarat were just, they descended upon me. David called them and said, get there to her now. Because I said, oh, I'm fine. And you don't know that you're not fine.
Because you're not thinking about that.
Not at all.
Because you don't come into that play.
Not at all.
Yeah, you're not in that thing. It's saving someone you love.
Right.
Right. And so we don't know how to do that. That's, again, something we're not educated
No.
on that.
So for other people, you know what? Follow your instinct, because the person that you're coming to, he or she is going to recognize your heart.
Yeah.
Whether you say the wrong thing, the right thing,
Yeah.
people recognize the
Your
heart
vibe.
of what's coming to you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So another thing that you were talking about within the trauma that I kind of tend to study is generational trauma this year. So I know that that's real because I have not only, my mother has passed it on to me, so I'm a Holocaust baby. I was the first generation born here, but my parents were from Hungary.
Yeah.
And a lot of my family I lost, obviously
I
in
did
the
too.
camps.
I lost my family in Babi Yar.
Yeah, in the camps. And
Yeah.
then, slowly my mother's family made it out here, my father's family made it out. But the generational trauma, which I never knew, that was passed on to me,
Yeah.
I want to be cognizant of that. And maybe, my sons can stop that,
Yeah. And people really don't recognize it. I'm second
It's real.
I'm second generation. My parents were born here.
Yeah.
Their parents were not. Polish, Russian, and Austrian.
Right.
And people ran. My grandfather ran from the Tsar. His brothers, when they were trying to get across, were put onto these trains into the concentration camps.
Yeah.
And they talked about it, but they only talked about it, in my bubby's house in Brooklyn or in here.
Right.
There was really no educating. And we still, to this day, in 2020, have people saying that the Holocaust never happened. I can't fathom that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it did happen. Yes, there are people still walking around with numbers emblazoned into their arms.
Not many of them now, but
Yes,
all my
when I
aunts,
was growing up,
right?
yes.
All my aunts had the numbers on their arms.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that
My
was
great
real
aunts,
for us.
second cousins, and our neighbors where we lived in Kew Garden Hills. You know, the people next door to us, the people right across the street from us.
Right. And so,
know?
and so that part of generational trauma, like again, we circle back to mental health.
Yeah.
I never spoke about, my father's a wonderful man, dealt with generational trauma. Why? Because he saw his father being taken away out of his house when he was 7 to the camps.
Yeah.
So again, circle back to, now he's a father.
Yeah.
But all that he's living with, no one talks about that.
No one talked about it. He never healed from it.
Never healed.
You just keep stuffing it and stuffing it.
You stuff it until it bursts.
It bursts. It has to burst.
Yeah. So, generational trauma. So mental health now following into this year. So why can't we talk about it more? Why can't we bring it to light?
Do you think also to spread this topic out in, it's almost like a wagon wheel, which is how I describe different faiths to someone. Like the wagon wheel is in the center, and the different spokes are the different religions and faiths that get to the Godhead, or whatever you choose to call it. But in the center is mental health, is balance, is grounding, is your connection to the ethereal and physical levels. So another one is how, I just lost my train of thought. Oh my goodness, I
It'll
went
come
off
back.
the track.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it always comes back. But how we can continue the education, and for the people that have gone through these traumas, I just started seeing last night, my nephew put on Facebook old Super 8 tapes that my father had, this camera. He loved his cameras. And to see pictures of my Bubby, my grandmother, of my mother when she had big teased hair, standing there. She looked like Lauren Bacall with her cigarette. My father kidding around, my uncles. To see this family, but now to look at them and to see what each of them, like you're saying, was carrying. Because that was the generation that escaped from being put into concentration camps.
My father had a lot of talks with me, not so much about what he's seen, but he did share something with me that I will never forget. And he told me that while he was 54, 55, he was living in Hungary.
Yeah.
He said all his friends were either being, if you spoke out about anything against the government, because Hungary at that point was ruled by Rákosi, which was their leader, and Stalin. So if you spoke out, he said he would see men being hung.
You were done, right in the town square.
Yeah.
And they didn't wait a minute. There was no trial. There was nothing.
No.
It's kind of like North Korea now. He kills his relatives.
Petrified.
Yeah.
And scared, traumatized and scared, and that again, we never really spoke about it, but
Right.
he does tell me small things.
How old is he now?
Oh, he's going to be 90.
Oh, bless him.
I know.
That is awesome. And
I
Mom?
know. She's 83.
Oh, she's much younger than him.
Yes,
Yes.
She's a cutie. So yeah, generational trauma. So I'm hoping,
Definitely.
My granddaughter
She's
will have
so
much less.
beautiful.
Will have much less generational trauma.
And she has a grandmother that's making a huge imprint on recovery, not just for her own family, but to educate other people that we could all benefit from what you're teaching. Because what I'm learning from you today, what I've learned from you in the past, I could continue. It's like that pebble in the pond. You put it out there. Whoever's sitting out, in the production booth, they're hearing it also. And you put these tidbits away, and something comes up, and you say, wait a minute. I saw this woman, Linda, on the show. I need to get in touch with her because this is happening in my family. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to turn.
Yeah. It's almost like you don't know what's causing the disruption in your home. Yeah. And there were certain signs that I saw that I couldn't put together. Like if you feel that things are changing in your home, or your kids' friends are changing, or their grades are changing, or moods are changing, or their physicality is changing. Have they lost a lot of weight? Has their social calendar changed?
Right.
So these are all like little things that I saw, but I couldn't link it.
Yeah, it wasn't making sense.
It wasn't making
And
sense.
what the thought did come back, you were so right. So in that tapestry, in that wagon wheel and those spokes, there seems to be, my therapist calls it a pandemic, of estrangements of adult children and their parents.
Yeah.
And it's not parents that have done anything, that are in prison for abuse or murder. These are people like you and I and everyone else walking around. Basically, quote unquote, normal parents that didn't starve their children, beat their children, nurtured their children, you know, bought them clothes, went on vacations. And it's this insane amount. When people come to me or they'll refer someone to me, and certain groups that I am part of on social media, it's absolutely heartbreaking to hear, but it also links in a number of them where the parent that lives apart from the estranged child or children will say he or she started using drugs and or alcohol, or they got into a narcissistic relationship. It seems that the narcissism, being attracted to that, is type of an addiction, to be attracted to that kind of personality.
I don't really know.
You don't have an
that
answer
part.
for me?
No, I don't really know. I'll have one.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to process that. But no, I mean, look, a lot of
I'm
the
kidding with you.
I know,
It's-
but
yeah.
a lot of the behavior, and again, what I say a lot also is, if you're battling something, just because you take care of yourself and go away for 30 days, that does not change your behavior.
And you don't want to be confronted,
No.
which the young lady that my
No.
son is involved with, when he was first found and in the hospital, maybe 2 days, I sent her a text message. Let me know if you need anything, et cetera,
That
et
was
cetera.
kind.
I was doing my best to be nice to her. Now, honestly, and I'm saying it, it's going to go out over there, whereas I really don't care. I have done my best with her. It is what it is. So she sent me a text, and my 2 caregivers had me out for breakfast. They were making me eat breakfast. It was October 16th. And I got a call earlier in the morning from David. Bruce is in a hospital. He's safe. But that day, he's safe. And so I sent her a text. Do you need anything, and et cetera. And she sent me back a text. He did this, he did that. I need this, I need money, I need just
Oh, yeah, money.
all this. I need money, I need blah, 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 blah. I'm so angry. So I wrote back, for me, what would have been a normal response, which it was, I suggest you hook up with a therapist to deal with your anger, to deal with all these feelings. It's something all of us...
Has she ever seen it?
Oh, you're so cute.
Oh, okay, sorry.
To deal with all this, and a therapist is something everyone in the family could use right now.
Yeah.
And please, and also suggest that you don't post intimately personal details on Facebook. It's not the place. It's a good place to say, here's the APB and a picture of him. If anyone sees him, please find him or her.
In that situation, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was immediately blocked and cut off. And I had to laugh. I said, look at that. I made what I believe to be a healthy suggestion.
But you could
And
put
it
it
was
out
pointed
there.
out to me, you're
Right.
dealing with a narcissist. You're dealing with someone that has a borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
They don't want you to look at them. They want you to look at your son, because they want him to take all the blame for all the heartache, all the this, all the that.
They're responsible for nothing.
Not a thing.
Nothing.
And it's a very interesting, from a medical point of view, from standing outside the emotional circle, to see it.
Yeah.
So if you see yourself in anything that Linda and I are talking about, even if you're the one that's dealing with narcissism, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means you have an issue that can get help. You can get help.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if you
Yeah.
are the abuser, you can get help, because deep down inside you really don't want to hurt that other person.
No,
or
and
yourself.
again, no more shame. Let's
No.
just put it out there and
Yeah.
talk to somebody, because that kind of cuts the shame out when you say something.
Yeah.
just say something. And if that person doesn't take it the way you intended it, you need to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
You can't keep
it's that
shoving
elephant
it down.
in the living room. I learned about that
Yes.
so many years ago in Al-Anon.
Yeah, and it's really true, and it's always there.
It's there.
It's
People
there.
walk around it. There's this huge elephant in your living room, whether it's alcohol, drugs, shopping addiction, sex addiction, relationships, video games, your cell phone.
And even social media.
Yes,
Even social media. Now, let's talk about that. Okay?
Yeah.
So there is a lot going on right now on social media, just talking about like girls and their body image.
Yes.
And again, social media is cutting down, I think, with a certain generation, I think now, not so much with the older, like let's say 30 plus, like, you know, because my older son, yes, did he have that? Yes, but not so much social media. But now, I even see my 6.5-year-old granddaughter, you know, on her tablet, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. So they're called digital natives.
Oh my God, these terms getting
Yeah,
me.
digital natives.
Digital natives.
Yeah, and for her, it's like a second language. She boom, boom, boom. She's on my phone.
Yeah.
She knows how to get in. My mother doesn't even know how to do that.
No.
No.
My oldest granddaughter is 26. She is the daughter of the son that has the depressive issues. And I remember when she was about 5 or 6, she would just show me how to get on my computer and do
yeah.
things like that. And it was like, holy cow.
Digital natives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm not. I'm technology-wise, I'm so not there.
Okay.
I just got a new phone in my house. And I spent an hour this morning after I talked to you figuring out where that plug goes. And that right now they're just charging. You know, it's going to be a landline. Yes, I still have a landline. And one's going to go into my office and one is in the living room. So when I get home, I have to program it. And I was starting to sweat before it was like, no, you have to get in the shower and you have to get ready to get
Yeah.
out to East Hampton.
No shame. No
And there is
shame.
no shame because
No shame.
here I am, you know, supposedly chronologically all grown up, but I don't know how to do that. Or
That's
I
fine.
make myself do it.
Yeah.
You know.
And learn it.
Like I learned how to add oil to the old car. I learned how to
Exactly.
put air in the tires. I'm not so good at because I tend to deflate rather than inflate. You know, so you could always ask for help. Ask for help for lots of things.
Yeah, ask for help is
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Definitely. So we do have some time left. There was another
Okay.
group that you wanted to chat about for a bit.
You mean Beating Hearts?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I am a member of an organization out here, and again, when I talk about grassroots organizations, there's a whole bunch out here that are wonderful, but I am a member of the Beating Hearts because we are mothers who lost our children to addiction. And so I don't usually lead with that because Jake is my reason for my work, and he leads me through a lot of things.
Yeah.
But these, it was started by a woman named Linda Newson who lost her son Adam.
Yeah.
And Adam was a very amazing young man, and he was very connected. He always used to say, look up. You know, so Linda took that and she propelled it into an organization called the Beating Hearts. So why the Beating Hearts? Adam always used to make beads. These beads have become, I didn't bring mine, but next show I will.
Okay.
These beads have become things that bring comfort and joy.
Yes.
They're just beads, but each bead has a message on it. The thing that really drew me in was that we have Beating Hearts that go to funerals. So my loss was 8 years ago, and I not only didn't have anyone coming to give me beads,
Yeah.
there was no one.
No one that could relate to you, that could.
No, because he was one of
Share
the
your
first
heart.
ones in Nassau to pass. So there was family. I mean, I
Right.
really can tell you I have a wonderful family. And but this organization, there is many of us here in Suffolk.
Yeah.
Many of us, and Nassau as well. So we're Nassau and Suffolk, and we meet. We have a 501c3 now that we do lots of things. We go to jails. We go to recovery houses and make beads with the people there. if anybody, wants more information about that, you can also look up for Adam or Linda News. And again, that's worthy of an hour show, because you can't
definitely.
even
I thank
go
you.
into the depth of what that
And
organization
the people
does.
are amazing, because you are an angel, and you invited me to the fundraiser.
March 8th.
And no, it was the one before.
Right, but so there's another one on March 8th.
Oh, okay.
So you have to come to that one.
That's Bruce's birthday. How interesting.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I will be there. Thank you.
Okay.
So the one that you had in October,
Right.
October or the beginning of November,
That was the psychic fair.
that was right after my son was found in the hospital. And I really didn't know if I could do it, because I was still so shaky.
Right.
And I sat in meditation, and it was, you have to go. And that's where I have to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart and soul, because the people that came and sat with me was a husband and wife that lost their daughter, was a woman that lost her daughter, was a woman that lost her son, and it just didn't stop. And each one asked me about myself. And it was interesting, because I noticed when they sat with other people doing what they were doing, they didn't ask them. But there was something obviously in my energy, and I said to each of them, my son just had a third suicide attempt, but he's in a hospital right now. And the strength and the courage and the insights I got from everyone that sat with me has carried me through today.
Right.
Just-
And they had two roads. They could either talk about it
Yes.
or not talk about it, because when you talk about it, every part of you.
Oh, we all cried at the table.
Right,
There was one
right.
woman that chose not to speak, whether she had a loss or not. I tend to feel she did, because my heart went out to her so much, because she was so rigid. She came, she had the ticket to sit with me, and she sat with me, and her lips were in that tight line. Her face was so tight, so drawn. And when people sat with me, I asked them, is it okay if I go behind you? Because I was doing Reiki,
Right.
and put my hands on your shoulders. And everyone said, oh, yes, please, yummy stuff. And she said, I don't want to be touched. And
Deep
that's when
grief.
you know that grief is so hard that
Yeah.
if you touch me, I'm going to break.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of time there.
Yes, if
Yeah.
you touch me, I'm going to be so.
Yeah.
Don't touch me.
Yeah. It's a lot. And it's a lot of processing, because it's a very new kind of grief.
Yeah.
Again, how long has it been that we've been losing children out here on Long Island?
Yeah.
Children
Yes. Yes.
from an epidemic.
From a horrid epidemic.
Yeah.
That is now is starting to first be addressed.
You know what? Years ago, we did. Michael Botticelli, who was the gentleman who would do a lot of speaking under President Obama,
Yeah.
he really did bring it to the forefront. I don't
Yeah.
know if you remember anything with him, but he was
do.
right up front and center. And we have marches every year in Washington, and thousands of us go.
Yeah.
But still,
It's so much. It's education. Get rid of the shame, and there's so much faith. There's so much courage in what you teach in your counseling, what the beating hearts share with others. I hope you come back to many more shows.
Oh, thank you so
because
much for
there's
having me.
So much.
I know, we could talk for like 4 hours.
For me and for everyone else to learn, and in this building alone, without knowing anyone's personal stuff. I know that we're touching. I know that people are going to, the show gets aired 3 times a week when we go on for over a month. It showed for around a month, a little over a month. So just imagine how many it's going to touch. And we get copies of the show, and they get shown further up the island. So your words and my not being ashamed to talk about my son, about his addictions, and Scott, my beloved who passed away, he was a recovering heroin addict. And when I met him, he was in recovery, I think 15 years, clean and sober. And he also went into the field. He was a substance abuse counselor.
Right, because
and
why
he
not
worked,
share
he
your
wanted
recovery?
to give back
Right.
to others. He wanted to show the people that he was taken care of in this group home in Nassau County, run by Mercy Hospital. He wanted to show these, he worked with men, these men that you can be clean cut, you can have nice clothes, you can go out to eat, you don't have to pick up again. And he would tell them, does it call out to me every day? Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It says you could take another shot. You could just one shot, just one nose, just one, just one. And he knows if he takes one, he's dead.
Yeah.
You know.
It's true.
And that's it. So please share the information about the show. Share the information about our beautiful Linda here.
Thank you.
Would you give your number, your contact information
Oh,
again?
sure. It's 516-451-1479. And again, just talk. Share.
The humanity of addiction.
Yeah.
All right.
That's someone's love.
It is. So we have a little more than a minute left.
Oh, great.
And a minute's a long time.
Okay.
Quickly on street drugs.
Oh, that probably take more than a minute.
Okay.
But no, I mean, we touched on fentanyl.
It's
and
awareness
fentanyl,
for people.
It's just awareness because a lot of dealers are pressing pills with fentanyl now. So even if you're buying pills off the street, you got to be really careful. And don't.
There's no quote-unquote quality control here, darlings.
No. And there really isn't in anything that you buy on the street now. No.
And when you go to your doctor or go to the emergency room because you're in pain and the first thing they offer you is Oxy, you don't have to take it.
Well, there are other pain management.
I found that they did that when I was in the hospital a number of years ago. The first thing they offered me was Oxy. And it was like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you ask me, what's my level of pain, and could Tylenol wrap it up?
Right. Well, that's something we're changing.
Okay.
Now, I think all
And
the
we'll deal
hospitals
with it.
across the board are doing pain management differently.
Okay. And now we have to go.
Okay.
So I hope you have learned something. Bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.